Welcome to the Care Chronicles with a Caring Touch, where compassion meets wisdom in every episode, dedicated to our beloved seniors and caregivers. Join us as we explore the heartwarming stories, experts' insights, and practical advice that make every moment with our elderly truly special. Get ready for insightful conversations, practical tips, and heartfelt moments that warm the heart and nourish the soul. Because here at A Caring Touch, we believe in laughter, learning, and love as essential ingredients to aging gracefully. So tune in, relax, let A Caring Touch be your guide to making every moment count. Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Care Chronicles. I'm your host Avishka, and today we have someone very special, Daintee Hurst-Dietz, and she'll be talking to us about Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans and all things related to insurance that you or your loved one might have questions about. For those of you who don't know, Daintee is a insurance licensed independent agent. She serves the health insurance needs of everyone, and you can find her information in our show notes below. Have you ever had a scenario where, say someone wanted to use their Medicare plan for preventive services and they've either stopped themselves and they've called you asking, hey, is this something that I can do this for? Or have you found out later on, like this was something that they could have used their Medicare for and gotten preventative services, but now they're at like a worse stage because they didn't end up going and getting those things checked? Have you had those?
Yeah, immunizations are always a big one, and they've adjusted, like shingles is now covered. Of course, COVID, during COVID, is COVID going to be covered? That was up in the air. So it was just go, and they just weren't charging people. I know how they went back on Medicare and stuff like that. But I know immunizations for the most part, some are under Part B, which has to, you have to satisfy the deductible on that. But I know for sure most, not all, but most immunizations are preventative. I mean, those are covered. And, any kind of an emergency, you're going to get fees, but whether it be through an Advantage plan or just traditional Medicare, I always tell people, first of all, if you do get a bill for things, don't just immediately pay it. Now, don't hold off and get in trouble, but there's mistakes all the time. Let's make sure that it's valid and that amount. They didn't just bill you for the whole thing and not yet bill Medicare or insurance. But if you ever have a question of if it's an emergency or you're scared about something and you want to go to the doctor. I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I say don't hold off worrying if you might have $10 or $15 or the $257 copay. We will work that out along. I help get involved in, what is this bill valid? And a lot of times it is, but a lot of times it's no, they billed you and Medicare the full amount, and it's just waiting on payment. But I'm like, don't ever hesitate to, I'm guilty of it. If I know I have something big going and I might have $2,000 coming my way in a bill, I'm going to probably hesitate. That we're human, it happens. But Medicare is pretty lenient on a lot of stuff when it comes to and especially preventative. If you're going to try to get something while early, if it's an early problem or you're trying to be preventative, they like that, obviously, and they're happy about it. So, yeah.
Is there in terms of I know you touched a little bit on some of the imaging, like mammograms and colonoscopies and wellness visits, you said you had to make sure. But in terms of those wellness things that are covered for preventive reasons, is there a limit on how many times a year you can go? Is it once a year? There's limitations or where can people find that information?
I can get that. I'll get the new stuff and send it to you. But typically on the, there's where the limits tend to pop up a lot are physical therapy, and it depends on what it's for. Chiropractic. They have started, some of the Advantage plans have started to allow some acupuncture and more physical therapy and, more Eastern style medicine, which is good because most people don't want medication and surgery, so they're starting to allow a little of that to creep in, but that's not traditional Medicare. That's the plans coming in to do that. So it really depends on who you have and what you have going on. And I like for people to tell me if they prefer that, because some companies absolutely won't participate. Not that they won't participate, they just don't have decent coverage for that. But if you're interested in that style or more functional medicine, things like that, There are some that are tailored a little better, and traditional Medicare actually has a little more acceptance of some of that. So, but yeah, I can get that. I can look and see. I know that certain immunizations and certain exams that are allowed. So I can get that for you.
Okay.
Just because I
Thank
like I
you.
said, they're changing so much. As soon
Yeah,
as I tell you that it's an MRI on the fancy machine, 4D or whatever it is, 4D mammogram, it'll not be. So
yeah.
I can get that for you.
No, I appreciate that. Like, what are some of the most common things that people do get that you've noticed? Or do you know of, in terms of preventatives that you have noticed that, oh, they have Medicare, so now they're going to their visits more, or they're getting physical therapy more, or they're getting that care that they've been needing? Is there some of those scenarios that you also experienced?
Well, yes, and I think it's great. Things like, well, mammograms, which you think are normal things, they're not. I mean, for a lot of people, if people think that it's covered, they're going to go. But yes, there's colonoscopies are a big one. People are worried about that. People are worried about the cost. They're worried about how it's perceived. One of the things that I have noticed, so all of those type major cancer, colonoscopy, up endoscopies, mammograms, the MRIs are not so much. That's kind of if you see something going on. Stress test, heart stress test. People are know that stuff is covered, or the PSA test for prostate cancer, just the main things like that. People weren't doing it because before they knew they had big deductibles with their company, they didn't know how it was going to work, percentage or co-insurance wise. So they didn't go because then they found out, then they know they have something wrong, but they not sure they can afford to do anything about it. And that's heartbreaking to me, but it is. And this is not just low income. This is all types of people. So people are think once they get used to Medicare and you see how comprehensive and how well it does cover things, if used and packaged properly, people will go. And I think that's why some of the rates are going up because people are using it, but using it as in now just check everything and just see that it's okay because that they know you have very clearly defined limits on how much you're responsible for. So it's kind of a safe feeling, that if I am diagnosed with cancer because I worked wherever and got it at work, whatever the case is, that it's going to be okay. It's going to be covered for the most part, or how much it'll be. It's not just an unknown. So yeah, I think a lot of people are using it a lot more and going to the doctor more, not because they're sicker. It's just that they feel safer to go get it done. That's what I've seen
I see.
in my own family, even.
Understood. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, that's awesome that people are like using it and able to like actually feel comfortable versus wanting to know like, oh, is this going to cost me this? Is going to cost me that? How would you encourage people to use their Medicare benefits for healthy aging? For example, that's a population that we work with primarily, the elderly community. How can older adults use Medicare to stay independent and healthy as they age?
Well, some of the advantage and the supplements have, and I think it's a genius idea. They've started doing it's been several years, quite a few years. They have included gym benefits as a perk. Some of them have some healthy eating. I don't know how much that's going to stick around this year, but some healthy eating cards.
Expand on the gym benefits.
Sure, yes. There a lot of even the major participating carriers, they can go sign up or they'll go through whatever insurance company that they select and sign up that way. And then that'll be communicated with their gym. And they can go and it's not just to do senior exercises. I tell people, then people say, oh, I'm never going to use that. Well, you don't have to go to the gym to be a triathlete. You don't have to go to the gym just to do the silver sneaker stuff. Some of it's through Silver Sneakers program or one like that. There's several different ones, but it's just you go in and you can use the gym however you want to. But mobility, just some cardio, a little bit. You've got if you want to use a trainer, you can. Some of that is out of pocket, but it's just to encourage movement, and also the social isolation that people deal with as they're older. The gym they also think is a mental health perk too. So if they're giving you all these tools to go and be active or, a free the gym membership or whatever other perks that some of them have, it's their idea is they're going to pay for that, but it's going to hopefully keep you out of the hospital. You know what I mean? So
Understood.
that's a huge one. But people, and I tell people, like, so you don't have to go and do a bodybuilding competition. Just go in there and do, they can guide you. Or I'm a certified personal trainer myself. I use it for myself just because I like to challenge myself. But, just try some different things, but just go in there. You're gonna meet some new friends, if nothing else. You're gonna have somebody to go to lunch with because you met them at the gym. So you're gonna be happier.
Yeah.
Some of the programs, some that have some healthy food card benefits, we still have to focus on catastrophic medical first, but if it happens to have one of those programs where it encourages people to go buy fruits and vegetables and things like that. So there's some perks in there. If you get a little extra money you can only use on those type of things, I think that's great.
And these are
Some of them
programs offered by Medicare or Medicare?
they're not. These are through the companies, through the insurance companies. Typically, some of the Advantage plans have them.
Oh,
But again, I put that like kind of third or fourth on the importance list, even though it's very important. Some of them also have, like, say you've been in the hospital and you may not have a family member close by. You can set up a certain amount of time and they have limits and they all vary, but to have some healthy meals delivered, like for your recovery. Say you had to go to skilled nursing and then you're on your way home and you're going to be home and they'll deliver you, a week or a couple of days worth of healthy meals. So they're already ready. You just heat them up and tries to encourage you to, heal faster, better, or stuff like that. So, yeah.
understand. With Medicare itself, is there a tip that you would give your clients to make sure that they use all of the benefits that are needed for them?
Yeah, when I do the original and even my annual intake or conversation with them to kind of see where they have, what their journey's been through the year and what they would like to change or whatever, we go through all of that. Have you used this feature? Did you remember you even have this feature? But I don't talk to them once a year, but I put notes out. I try to do like 3 months, 2 weeks for a new client, try to see, you have to remind them of all of those things. Typically, it's still overwhelming. We do a 30-day check-in. That's when it starts calming down. They're like, oh, I've got my card. Here's what I'm doing. Did she say I have a gym benefit? We go back over it. I mentioned it in the beginning or when we're switching throughout the year, but I've got to come back to that once kind of the dust settles of making a change or whatever. But yeah, we revisit that. But I also send an email out and it's generic. It depends on the company, but reminding them their plan may have extra features and they have their benefit summary that I told you about, just the summary of things. So they'll have, if they do have it or not, it won't have all the details just yet. But like I said, we do check-ins and kind of revisit. I kind of decide like the first 2 weeks to a month is, do you have your card? Do you even remember what company you went with? All of that good stuff. And then we dig into, there's so much dental. Have you made a dental appointment yet to try to use it? So we try to walk them through it.
And in terms of those additional benefits, is there like, can they call their own insurance if they had any questions, or is it better to go through someone like you? Or if they don't have someone and they decided to sign up, say their family member decided to sign them up themselves, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, they can always call their company. There should be a member services number on the back of their car, everybody's card. And they can always do that. And most of them have good service. Some are better than others, but they all have other features that may be better than others. But that's one of the reasons why I like to work with most of the companies, because just representing one and telling them this is the best for every single person is not the case. Because depending on what they have going on, and their doctors may only take Blue Cross, for example, when you have Cigna or Humana or whoever, you need to have those options and your care will change. But yes, they could always call their provider. Sometimes they will call and say, I didn't want to bother you. And I'm like, how long did you sit on the phone? Or did you get confused? That's always available. I don't ever say never call them. Sometimes it's easier to call me. If it's something little, I can usually answer it. If not, I'll say, well, hold on, let's get on the phone with them together. And sometimes it's wording or in the terms. They might have called and exactly what they're trying to get accomplished, but they didn't say it. Maybe they said it used Medicaid instead of Medicare or vice versa, or a little simple term with the customer service group or a doctor's office can really confuse things. So
Yeah,
I
understand.
encourage them to call me, but of course they can operate it. I'm always here if they, want to do it and, have a question.
Is there anything that a caregiver or a family member can use through Medicare resources to better support their aging loved one in this process?
There are, it's good too. I have some resources. They're ever changing. A lot of my biggest, and most of it is for financial assistance, but I am very, it's very important to me for my relationships with companies like yourself because I've been Stormy's like what in my hip pocket as far as needs and questions and stuff like that. But our network of the different spokes in the wheel essentially that will make this process go around and the different features, having good, trustworthy partners is that is where a lot of times I will send families if they've got a question because going on the Medicare site, we know what the federal rules are, but when we start getting into specialty needs, there are things that are available. There's things that I've seen available I didn't even realize were available. I learned it from one of my care partners. So, keeping those relationships and sending them to ask those questions is probably one of the best steps. Because, there's things that y'all hear about and what you're doing for a client that you heard from a charge nurse or whatever that I didn't, may not know because it wasn't written in the federal rules or whatever. So, but yeah, we do have, but a lot of income things that are easily accessible. If you need help with prescriptions, I can, direct you with that. You want to apply for Medicaid? Yes, I can help you with that, things like that. But yeah, using our referral partners to help answer questions directly with a family or calling them, getting the answer and calling them back, that's invaluable to me, at least all these years.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else that you'd like to, talk about, go over? I feel like we covered a lot of ground in terms of Medicare, in terms of the Medicare Advantage plans, what's covered, what to look for, and it sounds like the best solution is to go to a Medicare specialist so you can kinda understand it a little more, kinda get those things outlined and put next to each other so you can compare what you're either signing up for or trying to sign out from. So,
Mhm.
anything else that you'd like to share? Anything else you'd like to go over?
Well, and I know it seems like a lot, and I appreciate you. I know we've been trying to coordinate this, and I thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
And I'd love to be able to come back and have a conversation with y'all's group as to what are some of the challenges and dealing with some of the stuff that we are dealing with. Because sometimes we don't know that or are aware of that to be aware, or you know what I mean? Things like that. But I guess the biggest thing is just always, it seems like a lot. It seems overwhelming. When I'm meeting with someone one on one, we are only focusing on what's happening with them, what their needs are, who their providers are, and how we need to narrow that down. So I kind of take a lot of that chatter and all that confusion out of the way, and then we just narrow it directly down. And we can take it deep if they want to. We can just, you got A, B, C, D. Here's the date it's going to start. Here's your summary. I do have certain things legally I have to go over. If they want to listen or not, I have to say it. We do that. And then they go on. They don't care. It depends on the person. So it's not always this in-depth, long, drawn-out conversation. I can talk forever because it's so important to consider all of these things, but it's really more of what I'm doing over here. So we might just be simply choosing a plan, signing up. It's going to start this date. Boom, we go. But I'm not just going, oh, okay, just throw them in a plan and let's go. I'm really trying to think of all the things that can come up and that we're covered. So,
You're trying to make sure that they're also using what they signed up for.
exactly.
And, like, with those check-ins, I feel like that's very helpful. Because I mean, even myself, I've had dental for, what, over a year, and I haven't been to a dentist in over a year, which,
Dentist.
gotta do
The
it.
dentist.
Exactly.
It's my biggest fear. I just would not biggest fear. I think I've just had so much done. I mean, to maintain the braces and the wisdom teeth. I went to the dentist myself a couple of weeks ago and they all know me because they know what I do and they've dealt with me business wise. And I was like, they took my blood pressure and my blood pressure's not high. And I was like, they're like, it's a little high. And I was like, cause I'm here. Y'all scare me. Y'all scare me. Like, y'all are not mean people, but what you could do to me scares me. Like, I'm very anxious. Like, y'all are in my face. Like, this isn't my favorite place to be. I know we laugh about that. They're like, "Oh, she loves us when it comes to business, but She doesn't like to sit in the chair.
Yeah, like,
Yeah, the business always makes me cringe. So I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I did recently. I've been going, but
Yeah.
I do get a little anxious to drive it with.
Yeah, I mean, me too. So I feel like it's very helpful, and that's like another niche part to what you're offering to do that follow up and be like, hey, did you get that benefit? Or I know you wanted this, so let's see if you actually used it.
Well, the problem is what we're finding with the insurance companies is they're offering these now. A lot of times it's because they have a smaller network, so they're kind of beefing up the fun stuff on the other side. But people aren't using them a lot, so they're starting to say, "Well, why are we doing this? We're
Oh,
gonna just take them away." And it's like, oh, so I'm worried that we're gonna see some of that, not across the board, everybody, but if it's not getting used and they're paying for it, then they were trying to do it in preventative kind of because your mouth, the doctor can tell. I didn't realize how important. I mean, a dentist can see chronic disease in your mouth,
yeah.
and it's like, and you think you're just getting your teeth cleaned. It is so important. And I was like, yeah, whatever. It still scares me. But they say they call it like the inside
I've heard that before.
your soul or whatever. Like they can get in there and they can find things that a doctor didn't even notice
Yeah, like
or didn't know because it's starting in your mouth.
yeah.
So
I worked for a surgeon before, and I mean, they had like infections, and they were trying to figure out what this infection was, and they started with a toothache. And it was like, it ended up being like someone's, like, I think a sinus had gone into something. I mean, not,
oh,
that's off
wow.
topic, but yeah,
Yeah.
that was something I was like, wow, like this just started as a toothache like 2 months ago. And yeah, it was drainage. And just so our listeners know, I'll have the link to your website at the bottom as well, and any other socials and media where you can find Daintee. And I really appreciate the time that you spent with us, the questions you went over, the reiterations of some of the things that maybe people know, maybe people don't know. So I think that's very helpful. And I think the lesson for me is to understand your plans really well and to really work with a Medicare specialist so that you know what you're really signing up for whenever you're going off of a plan and coming into a new one. Or if you're signing up for one, now that you're off of your spouse's or off of another plan. So,
And then you have someone I mean, that's a lot, and I try to make it not overwhelming, but you're gonna get all of that information initially, but you have someone to say, "Wait, and you told me this. Can you go back over that?" You talk to the same person. You know what I mean? It's not going back through somebody that didn't hear you the first time, and anyway.
and I
So,
feel
yeah.
like understanding benefits is so difficult already if you don't like work in the industry, trying to explain it to someone and be like, oh, yeah, you're paying a premium, but yeah, you're also having a deductible. And then you have a co-insurance, which is not 100%. It's a different based on like, I mean, some co-insurances can be 100%, but not always. So I feel like it's beneficial 100% just to like
Yeah.
have that.
Yeah, they will leave the conversation with what the options are to make a selection and those details to go with it to help look back over
And
whatever.
each of those plans you're mentioning is like very individualized and different in terms of what benefits are offered. And,
Yeah.
not like you can't say like, oh, these Blue Cross plans all offer physical therapy. You don't know that. You have to look at each individual person's plan because that's what they signed up for. Well,
Yeah, there are a lot that are common. They have to at least for Advantage plans, it has to at least be Medicare coverage and then equivalent.
understood.
And then there's some other kind of nuances with things. But yes, I mean, at least that part. But that's for Advantage plans. The supplements are a little different. So yeah, but we'll go over all that. Hopefully people have an idea at least how the change from a company plan or from a plan they have and they entirely is gonna, look how it's gonna look, how's it gonna operate, what if this happens? I try to paint some pictures that are realistic, and some of them aren't the most positive, but people really don't care unless they know they either got hit by a car, God forbid, they got cancer, they had a stroke, heart attack, what does that mean? That's really when people pay attention. So I try to go, if this were to happen, this is what is gonna happen here.
I really appreciate your time. And
No, absolutely.
yeah, if there's anything else, I mean, we can always talk on more topics in the future as well. And then if you have any stories and stuff, we can also get you back on to share some stories and without the names. But yeah, if you'd like to
Oh,
share.
I've got a lot of stories. So some good, some not so good, but yes, I mean, and like I said, I know people like to hear stories. Unfortunately, with what I do, a lot, not all, but a lot of them are pretty extreme. Doesn't mean it ends in a bad way, but there are things that if we would have known or talked about or planned or been aware of. Again, I can't ask everybody's medical history. Most people will just open up like a water faucet and tell you everything, and it's actually helpful, but sometimes they don't. And then we did something that kind of negated their care because we didn't know. And, anyway, but yeah, there's a lot. We could just talk for a long time. So yeah, just let me know and I will make sure and send you all my
Okay.
information.
Thank you, Daintee, for another wonderful episode. And for anyone listening, if you're wondering about Medicare versus Medicare Advantage plans or adding on a Medicare supplemental, either for you or for your loved ones, give a listen to this episode. Check out Daintee's information in our show notes below. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to our agency as well. If you like this episode, if it gave you some insight and some information to something new in terms of insurance, please give us a like and leave us a review on Spotify, on Apple, or on YouTube. Until next time, hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining us on this heartwarming journey with a caring touch. Be sure to check out our website and connect with us on social media for more stories, resources, and ways to get involved. We're excited for you to join us again in our next episode, where we'll continue to explore the beauty of aging with grace and compassion and dive deeper into topics that matter to our elderly community. Until then, stay connected, stay caring, and we'll talk to you again soon on the Care Chronicles with a Caring Touch.